Hello again. Welcome to Whining with Kevin. My name is Kevin Almanac, and this is my weekly talk show where I invite one of my friends to sit on the patio and enjoy a beverage and chat for a little while. Today, I'm so fortunate enough to have a very good friend of mine. Much like last week's guest, Josh, he is also a lifelong member of Raider Nation, as he can proudly see. He is a self-described master mixologist, certainly a walking sports encyclopedia, and my friend Brad Trogdon. Brad, thanks.
Thanks for having me, Kev.
Well, as usual, let's start off with a beverage. So, what do you want to make for me?
Let's make a Manhattan.
Excellent.
One of your personal favorites.
Yep.
Definitely has come back into fashion, as have a lot of older cocktails. We're doing rye instead of bourbon.
My favorite.
A little less sweet. Depending. Old Forester's great. It's got a great profile. Don't need to get too much into that. Vermouth, bitters, chocolate bitters.
Another favorite
Just
of
a
mine.
little
Different.
twist.
Yeah, a little. A lot of times people use cherry bitters, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
I sometimes use both.
So we've garnished the glasses already with the standard, these days the standard, the one ice cube. People always love the Globe ice ball and the Luxardo cherries.
That's what we're gonna do. Give it a nice 6 count on this.
6 or 10, whatever
6,
number you
10,
like.
8.
We like to say Brad has a high elbow problem.
It tends
With
to
it.
happen that way.
Yeah. What do you think? That's looking good.
We're gonna go 10 count on it.
Thanks. As
Highly
always,
trained professionals as we are.
As always, my show is always unofficially sponsored by Frank's Bar and Grill, or Bar and Tap, sorry. No grill there. 2503 North Clark, open 11 a.m. to 4 a.m., 5 a.m. on Saturdays, 7 days a week. Serving all your libation needs, so please go check it out after the pandemic is over, of course. They'll be back in business.
Please wear a mask.
All right. What is now? I know whenever we see bartenders put things into the shaker, a lot of times they shake it up, obviously. Always, in this case, the Manhattan is stirred. Why is
I would prefer it that way. There are a lot of people nowadays that like it shaken. There's the notion of bruising, which also applies to gin drinks as well. There's no chilling without diluting. There's no, unless you have one of those vessels that has one of the cones that's cooled by dry ice.
Yeah. So the myth
So
of
really, the notion of bruising, it's just more formality,
yeah.
in my opinion. Now, do I want a bourbon cocktail shaken? Absolutely not.
No.
But some people, especially these days, definitely prefer it that way. Gin cocktails as well, which back in the day, if you shook a gin cocktail, you'd get thrown through a window.
Yeah. Well, this is definitely my drink of choice on a regular basis these days during the pandemic. For
too
sure.
regular.
Yeah, and it's, you know, like I said, I prefer rye. You know, obviously there's so many different types of bourbons. Last week, Josh brought a nice bottle of Blanton's that we
One of my favorite bourbons.
That was awesome. Well, let's do a little toast. And today's a very special day as well. Why don't you tell everyone?
We're going to raise a glass to Mr. Roberto Clemente, a man who literally gave his life giving.
Yeah. Cheers.
If you don't know the story, there was an earthquake in Puerto Rico. No, it wasn't his home country.
Oh, what?
No.
Oh, okay.
Another Caribbean island, forgive me. And he got on a plane with supplies personally to deliver to the people there. And the plane went down shortly after leaving the shores of Florida, and he was never found.
Wow, great baseball player, great.
Unbelievable baseball player. the first Puerto Rican of import in the game.
Well,
Even though, unfortunately, this kind of touches the times right now, he was judged as African American.
sure.
Even though Puerto Ricans and African Americans are different,
But really
still
led the way.
people are of color. But yeah, he definitely pioneered him and Jackie being almost 15 years apart in their impact in the game. But definitely, especially being in Pittsburgh, which was such a blue collar,
Yeah.
he definitely spearheaded a lot of awareness. Also, he was just great.
Yeah. Just an amazing player.
One of the few guys I've ever seen legitimately hit off his front foot. He had no backload.
Wow.
And I was listening to Mark DeRosa today, and he's like, I bet you he was hitting bottle caps like that.
Yeah. Well, I might drink this Manhattan off my front foot in a couple hours. Well, also, just to get started, wanting to let everyone know kind of how we met, the story behind our friendship, and how it developed.
Well, I'm sure we had been in the same room many a time
Oh yeah.
years prior, but we did not really become acquainted until I had actually opened a place for the Vaughns
Yeah.
in
Park
Lincoln
Ridge
Square.
guys.
Yep. Lincoln Square called Monty Gales, which our dear friend Gino lived across the street from, who I'd also been in the same room with many a time over. And
Yeah.
Kevin and I
How you doing?
swiftly struck up a friendship, and he decided to complicate my life and drag me into working into River North with him. And the rest, as they say, I guess, is history.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly enjoyed the times at Monty Gales, but it seemed like you were, there was a lot more potential, in my opinion, of where you wanted to be, and and I think that you were kind of bored there, basically.
Stymied.
Yeah. So it was nice. It was nice to have you come work with me at Joe Fish and
Which was an adventure in
places.
its...
Yeah. So we've had a lot of fun, certainly working together and being across the bar from each other.
About 4 places now?
I lose track.
Yeah. A
We both
lot of
work
our
with-
mutual friends refer to Kevin as the patron saint of getting Brad jobs.
Which I'm gonna have to get back on that horse, I think, very soon after the pandemic. Here. Well, let's get
If
into
we ever have bars and restaurants again, I don't know.
Oh yeah. We'll be doing this from the porch maybe for the rest of our lives. We're gonna be 80 years old doing this.
So subscribe and donate, please.
Yeah. Well, as always, I usually want to ask the same or similar category questions to every guest, and we've already touched on the friendship category, and let's get into really the life category, and what's interesting, as I think people find out when you answer the question, as I know, is that you have a lot of passion for certain things, and maybe if you can tell people some of your interests and how they developed as a younger person, and then how that moved you into your adulthood.
Well, obviously, growing up where I did, the arts were a refuge, sports were a refuge, music, nonstop, since I was very young, was definitely a refuge. I was a little bit of a black sheep, definitely quite a wild teenager. I don't know what the statute of limitations on some of that stuff.
Well, we don't need to touch on the specifics. Keep it above the table.
Yeah. But yeah, and then once I started working in restaurants, washing dishes at Arnie's Bagels in Glenview, Illinois.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I worked myself up from dishwasher to shift manager, and the rest kind of lies in the pudding. Some college baseball, an injury, back up here,
Yeah.
some time trying to make my way in the music business over in England.
Well, that had to be great.
That didn't work out.
But it was a lot of fun.
It was a ton of fun.
There's no question about that.
There's nothing wrong with being in your mid to early 20s running around London acting like
In the music industry.
trying to make rock stars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, food and wine became a passion fairly swiftly. Just hospitality in general. I think I've always enjoyed being a host, much to my parents' chagrin sometimes.
You know, it's not unusual. A lot of people that I've known in the restaurant industry, guys and girls, but you know, obviously mainly guys, have a background in sports of some kind. Myself included. You know, whether it's some sort of organized sports as a youth, and then into high school, and then you played into college. Do you think that development of sports helped you kind of, I don't know, build your personality into work somehow? Or?
I think given the fact that, I mean, I started off grammar school in learning disabled classes because ADD, HD,
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call it, was factored into the same thing as kids with MS.
They didn't diagnose it.
Yeah. So I was, you know, picked on, and then, you know, I just kept swimming and kept playing ball, and next thing you know, like, I sprouted up and I was angry. But you know, the team element that drew me away from swimming ultimately was great because it kind of brought me out of my social confines. Which also made me a much better restaurant employee.
Well, and that same concept carries over into the restaurant or bar business because you work so closely with a group of people that you see regularly, and you try for that success on a daily basis, much like you would on the field.
And we make fun of it all the time, like teamwork makes the dream work, all the cliches, but it does have a little bit of grounding.
Yeah, I mean, you really do have to work kind of in unison a lot of times to be successful, or you know, have a successful evening.
Especially when the shit hits the fan.
Which it does.
Fairly often.
Well, moving on, we'll get into another category here that I know will be a favorite of yours. You know, throughout your life, throughout our friendship, I've known you to have a couple relationships, but
oh boy.
what do you think, you know, outside of a lot of obvious things that go wrong, what do you think are some of the successful keys to developing a relationship, especially in the restaurant business that is truly difficult with the hours?
That's a very good question, and very layered. You know, I've dated opposite field, you know, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of jealousy issues that happen. I would prefer to date someone in the industry. Does that always work? Not necessarily. I just think directness and transparency are key to any relationship, no matter what the path of employment or whatnot is. But it's not easy to find.
Yeah,
and people have hidden motives, and you know, it's
bad habits.
Plenty.
Yeah, you know, I've certainly had my own struggles, but you know, it's when you do kind of find someone, you know, that's kind of on the same page as you and understanding of where you're headed, and then it, you know, really when it comes together, it's pretty special. It's nice.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can maintain that. That's always the hardest part.
Sometimes it doesn't work.
It's a struggle like anything else. So, if you know, we talked a little bit about your sports career, and I mentioned
I wouldn't call it so much a career.
Well, yeah, use that word lightly.
Yeah.
Career.
Careering himself off the mountain.
But I think it's safe to say your interest and your knowledge of sports in general is pretty vast. How did that develop, and you know, how do you maintain that?
Well, you know, growing up, I just really just fell in love with baseball very, very early. Like, to the point, and I was also a little bit of a loner, so I had some time on my hands. To the point where I would take all my baseball cards and I'd organize them alphabetically by position.
Do you still have those baseball cards?
By league, by team. My mom might. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think so. She probably gave them to church or something.
They're in the spokes for bicycle.
Yeah, somewhere. But I had like this file cabinet full, and like I would line up teams and like.
Yeah. Well, and back when we were growing up, and I was a little bit older, but you can also, on the back of the card, there was a game that you were able to play, like a card game
Yep.
with the cards, and it was very interactive. You would trade with the friends and collect different teams, and it was a great hobby for me growing up. I know that. Now, but your passion for sports goes way beyond baseball, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Football
it's-
season coming up tomorrow. Big
especially
Raiders
during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Anything I can get my hands on. I'm watching a lot of Korean baseball.
Which is thrilling.
I'm still keeping up with it.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but yeah, it's just always it's like rock and roll for me. It just gets me going.
But no career in the industry other than playing when you were younger, right?
Yeah,
Nothing
a little bit of writing
yeah.
right before the crash of '08. I was doing some freelance stuff for a while, but then when the crash happened, the first thing that any team cut was marketing.
Yeah.
So it was just bad timing as usual on my part.
Just making sure you've got your bottle.
Always. It's Wednesday. The next category, it would be a variation, I guess. It's kind of called the death category, which
boy.
always doesn't sound great, but it's something part of life as well. But for you, I think if I was pondering the category last night and thinking about you, what if tomorrow, let's say, that sports and music didn't exist anymore? What exactly do you think you would turn your attention to? Because those are such a big part of your life on a daily basis. So if the death of sports and music happened, where do you think?
It's kind of been on hold,
Yeah.
so it's a trial period. I guess literature, food, and wine, really, for me. My mother's a librarian, so I'm lucky enough to be inundated with books
Yeah.
most of my life. I used to write more than I do now, but not that I'm any good.
Or legible, really.
Yeah, well, then there's that. That's a whole different bag.
Do you have a favorite writer or that you prefer to read, or a genre that you like more than others?
I mean, mostly nowadays I read nonfiction stuff about baseball.
There's a shocker.
I do like the beats, so I definitely like Kerouac.
Yeah.
Just watched the Bukowski movie the other night.
Always great.
No heavy favorites really, and obviously these days at least not a lot of fiction, but I am currently reading a great book called Baseball in the American City.
What is that about?
It's written by an architect, and he traces the lineage of the effect of baseball facilities in the American city across the gamut of time. And it's pretty fascinating because it talks about economic, social, and
So how
everything else.
the
Like
stadiums developed, or
how the stadiums developed,
disappeared.
how they disappeared, how they impacted the community.
I heard an interesting fact the other day. The 1945 Washington Senators, they hit only one home run that year in their own home park. Every home run was hit away. But then they started talking about the dimensions of the field down the line, which is the shortest part of the field, right from home plate, and it is usually about 380 feet.
380.
So they were
Could be
400.
as short as 350.
They were 400 at their shortest point, and then it got bigger. And their one home run, I believe, that they had in their own park was a inside the park home run. So the ball never left the yard.
Was it Trey
Washington.
Turner's granddad?
Yes.
Because he just had it inside the
Oh,
Parker
yeah.
for now the Washington Nationals.
Yeah.
The fourth franchise to actually try and last in that
Oh
city.
boy. So, well, to finish up, a question that I always find interesting, some people struggle with a little bit, and my answer changes probably, regularly, certainly as I get older, it definitely changes. But if you had the opportunity to have dinner with 3 other people, and it could be anyone, past, present, or future, excluding immediate family, right? It could be people from all walks of life. What 3 people do you think you'd like to sit down with, and what topic of conversation would you have?
That's a pretty good question. Not Bob Costas.
No, because you wouldn't
Because
be
it
able
wouldn't
to
be a
talk.
conversation.
No, he would talk the entire time.
I guess Vin Scully, David Bowie.
Love David Bowie. Always a fan favorite here at the patio.
And God, that third one's hard. That's rough. There's a lot of people on that list.
Yeah. And Vince Scully, for people who don't know, a famous sports broadcaster,
Yeah.
mainly the Dodgers broadcaster.
Mainly the Dodgers broadcast.
But many World Series broadcasts.
the only carryover from the Brooklyn days.
Yeah.
That's
Probably
how
the-
long he was in the game.
Probably the best.
The John Coltrane of baseball
Yeah.
voices.
Yeah.
God, that third one. Boy,
David
that's-
Bowie, certainly everyone's aware of his musical abilities.
Yeah.
Fame, no pun intended.
And I guess Charles Bukowski, just to spice things up a
Yeah.
little.
Well, what kind of conversation would you have with those 3 guys? Or what topic would you? You don't have to get into
Anything
specifics.
but politics.
What do you think all 4 of you would be able to speak upon?
I think we would all be able.
I mean, interact together with. What topic do you think?
Probably music, probably jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah, something of that ilk. I would think.
To hear Vince Scully talk about a little.
You know
jazz.
Vin Scully was a jazz guy.
Yes. Oh yeah, he's something.
He wasn't whipping out the AC/DC records
No.
anytime soon.
No. I thought he might be more of a Beach Boys kind of guy. No.
He's a
Only
little elderly for that, actually.
Yeah. Well, we covered the general questions, but is there anything you want to talk about specifically, or?
You know what I was thinking, just it being the day that it is, Roberto Clemente Day, how many people in the generation behind us even know who that man is?
Or Lou Brock, who passed
Or
away
Lou Brock,
2
who
days
passed
ago.
away 2 days ago.
Yeah.
God rest his soul.
Well,
Amazing ball player.
I think, sometimes we don't
And also
give,
a good human being.
of course. I'm sure like our father's generation might say the same. But I think people who are passionate about baseball in general or anything, will look into the history of it, certainly. So there's probably kids that, and not that we have interaction maybe with that age group, but I'm sure there's people that look into it. Now with Google on their phones,
Yeah.
all they have to do is
Everything's
hear a
right out
name
there,
and they
yeah.
find out more information. Where we had to,
When we wouldn't even know.
we actually had to go to a library and read a book.
The macrofiche.
Yeah. I mean, the Sports Almanac. I mean,
yeah.
I used to love that book every edition that came out. But yeah, you study stats when probably most sports. You study stats and history,
The back of the cards.
leaders. I don't know if baseball cards. They still sell them, right?
Yeah, the market kind of crashed a few years ago, from what I understand. Yeah, they still sell them. They'll sell you anything right now.
Have you ever been down to the Louisville Slugger?
I have, actually.
For as many times I've been down to Louisville, I've never stopped
It's a
there.
nice ballpark.
Well, the
Kentucky Baseball Hall of Fame is there as well, which
I've been out front,
Carlton Fisk is enshrined in.
but have you been to the Bat Company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not in a long time, but yeah.
There's so many great things out in Louisville. I love that town.
Oh, it's fantastic. Good
I
food.
mean, going through some problems as almost every city is, but specifically Louisville right now is having a lot of trouble, so we
Yeah.
hope they get over that. And our
Hope
friend Jimmy
everyone
Burke
gets-
is down there.
That's right. Jimmy is down there.
Yeah. So
It's,
I mean, I think
it's
everything will get
tough
figured
all
out.
over.
It's just everyone's gonna have to.
I'm shocked that Detroit hasn't popped off.
Yeah. It's everyone's trying to do their best, so we'll see where it ends up. Hopefully, get rid of this pandemic issue. We get rid of any trouble between us politically. Hopefully, that's over. After the second, one way or another. More importantly, hopefully, we get back to our restaurant business,
Yeah.
and you don't have to listen to us. And
Seriously, we're much
on
more
Facebook.
entertaining when we're serving you food and drink.
Yeah, you don't. We shouldn't be the ones drinking. You should be.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming out. I certainly really appreciate it. Your friendship, first and foremost, has
Always
been
good.
great for me, and I look forward to working again soon together, wherever that may be. We'll see.
We don't quite know yet.
I have a special surprise for next week's guests.
Ooh.
Very excited if it happens. I'll get the confirmation hopefully by Monday. But if it happens, everyone's gonna be really excited about it. So we'll see. So thank you for another episode.
Thanks,
Appreciate it,
guys.
buddy. See y'all later.